Hello everybody. I will also switch on my cam briefly to so that you can put a face on the voice. So I'm, like Johanna already mentioned, I'm Jean-Philippe Audres, I'm the Senior Program Manager, and we'll here then get you through the presentation and also give you the key elements around this COVID call. So maybe to start, this is a very specific call. It was also set up on a very short notice. Was also based on the exceptional situation we all have been in, and also, if you have also heard, the Commission and European institutions also took decisions and wanted to facilitate contribution also from the European programs to the response to this COVID outbreak, by creating specific conditions. And based on these specific conditions, we as the Interreg program from the EuregioMeuse-Rhine, we also decided that we could, based on our program and our capacity, also contribute to this response to the COVID outbreak. So we have also then discussed which fields do we think are important to be supported. So there are some limitations, and as you can see here in the co-focus, there is a specific focus on fostering the crisis response capacity in the context of the COVID-19 outbreak and for the sectors of health, public safety and security services, public administrative management, as well as social services. So you might maybe wonder, what about economic recovery? But this is something that will not be addressed in this call. So the call specificities, in order to still be effective and in relation with this outbreak, the idea was also that we had to react as soon as possible. Of course, organizing such a call and organizing contribution out of an international program cannot be done in a couple of days. So basically, indeed, we're already a bit further in this COVID context. Still, we think that and not everything is over. There's still attention points, and but we wanted it to be very reactive, and so we have a short submission and also a short selection period. To do that, we also have decided to have a simplified application form and also to allow submission in English only. So this will also then make the work at the level of the applicant easier and allow that in this very short period that we have opened the call, still good applications or applications with the sufficient elements that we expect to receive can be drafted. The duration for projects in this call has been limited to 12 months. So the idea is we all hope that within this next year we will be in a new situation where we have found maybe a solution to manage better this virus. We also have decided for a high support rate, compared to what we normally provide as a support rate. Here it's 90%. And the total budget available for this call is €4,163,850. So that's really the global envelope that's available for supporting initiatives around this COVID situation. The calendar for the call, so opening of the call in EMS was on the 26th of May. And so from that moment on, you were able to create application forms, start working on them. However, the effective submission can be done between the 4th of June and the 8th of June until 16 hours. So be very attentive to that deadline, because the system is configured in that way that after that deadline is passed, no submission is possible. So it is really something to keep an eye on. And then the decision is foreseen on the 24th of June within monitoring committee meeting. So that's for the calendar. And so now I will pass the word again to my colleague Johanna about the key documents and the rest of the process.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I mean, I hope you have already had a view on it. So we have published also the public application package on our website. If you haven't seen it yet, it's in the download section on our website. So it's just called COVID-19 call application package. And so it's composed of the official call regulation in all 3 languages of the EMR, so German, Dutch, and French. Then we have a guidance document that gives you a bit more of a hands-on guidance on the call, a bit more shortened, because the official call regulation is a very official document. So the guidance document is maybe something that you want to start reading first if you haven't done so already. And then we have 2 templates there. They're for reference only, so it's the application form and the budget. I'm saying for reference only because it's basically you can work with them, but you have to complete the application form, the whole application form in the electronic monitoring system in the EMS. So you have to, if you don't have an account there yet, you need to create your account. You can do this yourself, and you complete the application form there. There's also 2 annexes. Actually, at the moment in the application package, there's just a legal status template included, because a partnership agreement, you can have a look at the partnership agreement of previous calls. We will adapt this one. In any case, you do not have to submit those 2 documents or any additional annexes with the submission of the application form now for the 8th of June. Again, it's a very short deadline, so we know that signing such documents takes longer. So you can already have a look, but yeah, they can be submitted afterwards. We only need them really before we can make the first payment. So that would be with your first partner project report. So again, all those documents are available on our website. In general, maybe a message where please always have a look at the website, especially the download section. We also have informed about the call there. In addition, don't forget to follow us on social media as well, where we publish updates also more closely. Okay, I'm blocked with my mouse. Okay, so priority access. We have in the program, as you might know, 4 priority access. For this particular call, 3 access are open. So that's innovation, priority access number 1, then priority access 3, social inclusion and training, and access 4, territorial development. Priority access 4 is not open for the COVID call. Jean-Philippe Bodos explained this already in the beginning. If you have a project that would fall more under this, this access, you can consider an application in the running 6 call where access 2 is open, so it might fit there. There are no budget limits for those, so it's not that under innovation we have less or more budget available for this specific call than for the other access, or vice versa. So you can, if you have a project under those 3 access, you can apply. I think we briefly talked already about this. Just to repeat some basic information about the project duration and the eligibility period. Also, that's a bit different from our normal calls. So the duration is just 12 months or less. we will allow one prolongation of 6 months, but of course that's not something you plan for in the original application stage. That's just for you to know. The latest possible end date is 31st of December next year. And the earliest date of activities to be supported is 1st of March 2020. So it's also a bit particular. So if you have already, it also allows for projects that have that are already ongoing, that are already doing activities. Okay, then those are the more general information about the call. Of course, you might want to know what are the eligibility and selection criteria. So we have 2 phases basically. Once you've submitted your application form, we will check if it's eligible, and only if the application is eligible, you will pass to the next stage. That means the quality assessment. There's just 4 eligibility criteria. I think it's very straightforward. I start with the last one. You have to submit the application form before the deadline. I think that's pretty obvious. The system also blocks submissions afterwards. You can also not include activities that have started before 1st of March 2020. And of course, your activities that you present in your application form must really have a link with the 5 sectors that we outlined already in the beginning. So it has to have a link with the COVID outbreak in the sectors of health, public safety, public security services, public administrative management, or social services. And the last, which is here, the first criteria on the slide, it's an administrative requirement, also come from the regulations. So you have to have at least 2 legal personalities, not persons, actually organizations, but legal personalities, and they have to be from 2 different member states in the program area. So that means you have to have like the member states in our program area are the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. So you need to have 2 organizations from those 2 members, from at least 2 member states. Okay. Yes. Then, if you've passed the eligibility stage, we have the quality assessment, so where we look actually at the actual content of your application form. We will rate your application form on a scale from 1 to 5, but you must score a minimum of 3 under each of the 3 criteria. We will go to the slide in a second in order to be selected. So it's not that you can score on 1 5 and another 1. You really need to have a minimum of 3 under each criterion. And then projects will be selected based on a ranking based on your final score. So the 3 selection criteria that we have for this call are: number 1, the quality of the partnership. So that's composed actually of 2 elements. Are the organizations that are involved in the project, do they have the necessary expertise for the activities in the application form? And then it's maybe a bit particular one, if you have one organization that acts as a coordinating body, so maybe for several organizations, but you just have this one organization representing several organizations in the partnership, does it have the administrative capacity to perform this role? That's the quality of the partnership. Then we are a cross-border program also, or particular in COVID-19 times. So the cross-border dimension of activities needs to be given for all activities. So the 3 sub-criteria, sub-questions there are the activities, do they cover the needs or problems related to the COVID crisis in at least 2 member states of the program area? Will the activities, measures, and tools that are presented by the project, will they benefit a large number of citizens or organizations in our program area, so EuregioMeuse-Rhine? And then how intensively will partners cooperate in the project? So as for all our other projects, it's not the idea that each partner just does a bit their own thing. Cross-border cooperation is at the heart of everything. So we also want to see in your application form that also in particular addressing COVID-19 crisis, that you actually cooperate across borders and that to a maximum extent. And the last point, last but not least, of course, the feasibility of the project is important. Do you present a project that's realistic in terms of funding and time. It's only 12 months. You need to be able to deliver results in that time, and also in relation to the funding that you propose. So too little or too high funding is obviously also not the idea. So yeah, those are the 3 selection criteria. And then we will actually go already directly into the application form and the budget. We have simplified the application form for this call, so don't take this as an example if you're participating in other calls from us, but I will hand back the word to my colleague to present you all the details of our amended application form and the budget details. Jean-Philippe?
Yes. So, as already announced and also said again by Johanna, we have simplified the application form really to the essential. So we have now 4 sections where we expect information from you as applicant. The first one is the summary. The second one is the section with the partners. We also have now, for this specific call, the possibility to add associated partners. We have then also the work plan, but there is really very focused on the implementation aspect. So no work package management, no communication work package, and no first level control work package as we are used to in the normal calls. And then we have then the budget section, and also an attention point is, as mentioned earlier, or maybe also come a bit later, further explanation on the use of lump sums, because we want also absolutely to simplify the reimbursement of costs in the framework of this call, and so reduce as much as possible the administrative burden. And indeed, there's no attachments necessary for the submission deadline. Still, we expect at later stage to receive some specific documents, but we will see it in the next slides. So the budget, I already mentioned, total of 4 million, 90% ERDF co-financing. So there's still at your side a contribution expected from 10% of the cost, or you have still the possibility to apply for additional co-financing at regional partners and just ask them if they are willing to support and cover this 10% cap or less. But this is really a step that you have to undertake. Yeah, and indeed, so here the lump sums. So maybe some of you have already heard about lump sums or already used lump sums, but maybe for the ones who don't know about lump sums, the idea of lump sums is to define an amount before the start of the activities, and then the payment of the amount is linked to an effective realization. So what we here propose is that the different activities are described, and then for each activity that we have also specific deliverables very clearly defined, and then to each deliverable that an amount is associated to it. And basically then the amount will be, or the amount will be paid at the moment that you can prove that you have implemented it, that deliverable has been achieved, or that it's working. Then we just then go over the payment. And for example, if you have to contract an external party, there is no need to further justification. You don't need to provide us 3 offers or so on. Really, the important thing is that you can prove and show that concrete action has been taken and concrete results have been achieved. So that's really the idea behind the lump sum. Still, before if the application has been selected, before starting the project, we will then come together as managing authority and beneficiary, and then we will make clear agreements, also to have a good understanding from both sides what is expected to be achieved at the end of the process, so that the payment can be made. So an important attention point is also, if the deliverable is not achieved, basically there will be no payment. So there's a real focus and emphasis on putting in place everything needed to really achieve what has been announced in the application form. We will then also discuss, because of course we also know that this can be a certain risk also for you as beneficiary. So for big investments or bigger amounts, it can be broken up also in different phases, but then it's all the purpose of the discussion is just to see, okay, what makes sense, how can it be breaking down to still have this guarantee that at the end we end up not with half a product, but still something really useful. And then, of course, then, like I said, the payment will be done when it's proven that achievement is made. But here we also, then we come back to the normal process. We also expect from you that there are project reports. Okay, given the duration here, 12 months, there will be 2 project reports during the project, and justification for achievement of deliverables needs to be included in these reports. So I don't know if it can, yeah. I think that's it for this part of the presentation. What we can do now is go to the EMS, the monitoring system, and also make a small demo and show you the application form and get through it before we enter the question round. So here, I don't know if you can see the screen with the application form and the EMS.
Yes.
Okay. So here, this is a test project that we have set up. We've tried to fill in some sections to make it more understandable also for you. Okay, for the ones that already have worked with EMS, it's the same environment. Here you have then the project overview with the project summary. You have some key sections that you absolutely have to fill in. There's a program priority in which you want to submit your application, specific objective, project acronym and project title. So very important. The project duration. Here, do not oversee this one. For example, here is a clear indication of the duration in months and days. Be attentive also that not go above than this 12 months. So in this case, if we go here to 28th of February 2021, we have 12 months and 0 days. This is okay. Don't do the error of putting here 1st of March 2021. You would be in 12 months 1 day, and unfortunately this is then not receivable as an application. Project summary here, this will be a very important section. You have 5,000 characters. We expect you to provide here a clear, understandable description of the aim of the project and what you want to achieve with this project. This will be a very important section. Besides this, in this screen, there's nothing more to add. In the partner, you can here then create partners by creating a new partner, but you can also create new associated partners. So first we go to a normal partner. Here it will be then the lead partner. as you can see, you can select here the role, lead partner or project partner. You have to put in a name of your organization in your national language and also in English. For the rest, you can go through all these sections. They're a bit self-explanatory. Do not forget to fill all sections in. As you can see here, there are some sections, some questions that we were not able to deactivate in the EMS. And so we have then also clearly indicated that they are not applicable for the COVID call. Pay attention to this also. This will also avoid you to fill in some fields that are not relevant and basically perform unnecessary work. Very important, do not forget to save regularly here or here. And every time that you fill in something in one field, we recommend you to save. If you don't do that and go to another section, you will lose the information. So, and here, experience of the partner, this is also a field that needs to be completed, so it's important to pay attention to that one. I go back then to the partner section. Associated partners, you can create them. It's the same information that you have to fill in, so nothing different. The only difference that you will have, you will see it later when we go to the budget section, is that an associated partner, you cannot add budget items, so it has no budget. Now we can go to the work plan, as the other sections are irrelevant. So here again, we have this work package management. Unfortunately, we are not able to deactivate this one. It's still mentioned here, but you can ignore it. It is not relevant for this call. So where you have to go is to the implementation work package. If you enter here, you can fill in the title, very important. You can also mention which partners are linked to this work package and which partner is responsible for the work package. Here again, the idea is that you give a description of what you want to do. A work package is limited with 5 activities, so it might be possible that you have to create more than one work package. So this is where you can also differentiate in your text about what you're going to do in the different work packages. There's a limit of 3,000 characters. And then I will then jump directly also to the activity, because that's also very important. We expect here an activity title. It's very important, is the start date, end date of the activity, and then that you break down your activities in deliverables. And like mentioned earlier, this is very important for the lump sums. And in this case, for example, here we have 2 deliverables. And in the case here, we're just saying, okay, we want, in the example, to set up cross-border crisis monitoring by the public administration. And for that, we need liaison officers located in the different parts of the area. And also we need a database. So the 2 deliverables that we need. If we see the liaison officers, there are 5 officers, and the tool, this is 1. Here you have then the description also of the activity. It's all things that needs to be filled in. A very important section also here is that even if lump sum is will be the main approach for reimbursement, and ideally the only one. This is also the wish from the program. We didn't want to completely close the door for unforeseen circumstances. So if in very exceptional cases, for some deliverables, you consider that the lump sum approach will not work, we ask you to write here a justification, but again, I really want to stress that this is for exceptional cases. So normally, from our perspective, everything should be manageable via the lump sums. So that's for the work package. So the same if you do the breakout with the different activities, and you can create more than one activity and then associate more than one deliverable to each activity. So it's really depending on your ID and your project plan. So the next section that needs to be filled in is the budget. And here you see we have this list with the partners. And as mentioned earlier, we only have 2 partners. The associated partner is not visible here. And so we go to define the budget. And here you will see that we have created the 2 items, the 2 deliverables that were mentioned in our example. One line for the liaison officers with a total budget of 350,000 euros. And how is it broken down? We have said here it will be reported in the second period because it will be really at the end of the project. Because they are aimed to be involved in the whole duration of the project. There will be 5 people and 70,000 euro per person. We end up with a total of 350,000. And here we have included additional information linked to how we came up, what is the breakdown of this amount. This is also very important and expected that you also give this breakdown in order to justify the total amount. So we don't expect too much information with the lump sum. It's really limiting things to a minimum, but the amounts still need to be understandable. We must be able to assess and make the link between the cost you claim and what you're going to deliver. So the more information you put here, the better understandable it is for us at the moment of selecting applications, and it will also help you to show that your estimations are realistic. And so for the next one here, okay, it's 1 unit and it's foreseen to be performed in the very first phase of the project, 20,000 euros. And here again, I've put some additional elements to justify and clarify the amount. So that was it for the presentation in the EMS. We have more extended guidance for how to work in the EMS. Please consult them. We also have a help desk if you're stuck somewhere in the process. So that was it from my side. And I think that we can go to the question time. And I don't know if some of you have questions for us.
Okay, I just see there's a first question in the chat. How do you calculate the lump sum? Is it based on the Bruttosalaris 1.2 hours? That's what this is not referring what you would put. I think somebody needs to turn off the microphone because there's a lot of back sound. So this 1.5 rate is a standard hourly rate. This has nothing to do with the lump sum. So the lump sum is really you define for the deliverable and what the amount that is for this deliverable. So it's one amount for one deliverable. So in the case of that Jean-Philippe was presented, the liaison officers, there was one example, one liaison officer, the cost will be 70,000 euro. So that is the lump sum. You don't say you don't calculate the hours that this person is working and then report on it. you define from the beginning what your deliverable is worth, and if in the end it costs more or less, that doesn't really matter for the lump sum. The lump sum needs to be realistic, but you define how it is set up, and then, as we said earlier, we can discuss this later on, but for the application form you have to give the basic idea, and in the comment field you can always provide this information on how the breakdown is, if to give a better idea of how you come to this amount for this specific deliverable, but the starting point is the deliverable.
I see there's a second question asking, okay, we don't have to put in any costs in the staff cost section as the lump sum is in the external expertise. Indeed, this is how you have to understand it. It is also to make it more manageable and easier, as we have decided to put every lump sums under the external expertise. This is not meaning that this lump sum will cover only external expertise, or if you have only staff costs, indeed it also goes to the section external expertise in the EMS, but it will at the end will cover staff costs. The only thing is, in again these very exceptional cases that you think lump sum will not work, then you enter in the normal way of filling in a budget by then just detailing in every specific section staff cost, external expertise, travel, accommodation, and so on, the amount. But again, this is not expected.
Mm-mm. And to complement the next question, that is, do you apply the 15% for admin costs and the 1.5 for travel? Again, that's only if you are including staff costs in there in the application form, then the normal procedure of the 15% and 1.5 will apply. Just for you that you're not confused when you see it in the MS, the 15% and 1.5 will be added. So basically it will be 16.5 administration costs that appear or that you have to tick, which includes then travel and accommodation 1.5% and 15% administration costs. But again, that's only if you have something in staff costs. The idea is still to have the lump sums under the external expertise, so that should be the default situation.
But for example, to calculate your lump sum, you can indeed start from this principle and just with this justification, like I showed. You can say, okay, this is our gross wage from which we start, and we have then calculated so many hours. It can be your rationale to come up with the amount. And I think it's a good rationale, and also then showing to the program to be transparent, just to say, okay, this is how we came up with this lump sum of, I don't know, this example, 150,000 euros for staff costs. How is it break it down?
Yeah, to the question if it's recommended to upload an attachment to explain the cost, it's always preferable to put this so you have the deliverable section where you're in the work package, where it's good to provide as much information as possible on the deliverable, what it is actually, how is it composed of, so that it's also easier to understand and to make the link then with the budget. And in the budget, you have the where you list the different deliverables, and the comment section, there is in principle sufficient field to explain. If in addition you feel you want to upload an attachment, that's we won't block you, but you know, from in principle, I mean, the application form is what we look as major source for information. The information annexes will not be regarded or cannot be replacing the information in the application form. It can give additional, let's say, to present it in a clearer form, but the information needs to be in the application form itself.
So there was also a question about state aid rules, and so we will come back on it after this round of questions. And then also, does the involvement of a company is necessary, or does it help to scoring high in the evaluation? No. The assessment will be done based on the criteria, how they were here displayed, and it is not expected. If it's helpful and if it makes sense in your project, then of course it makes then a strong proposal, but it's not some a general principle just to say, okay, involvement of companies will help applications to score better.
Okay, then there was a question, I don't know if you answered this already, if there needs to be invoices, order forms, quotes, supporting documents. If you apply the lump sum, it's a lump sum methodology that needs to be sound. So how you award the lump sum and how is it composed of. But then there is no additional supporting documents for the cost. So invoices, order forms. That's all that we don't need that to pay you the amount. We just need to have proof that the deliverable for which you award the lump sum is achieved.
So basically, there's a question: you can use your own cost breakdown for staff costs. Indeed, you can do that, and then our request is just making it then clear, or what are the different elements you take up, and what is the estimate related to working time, for example.
And we have a question on indicators, or well, on outputs and deliverables. It's a good question, but you focus on deliverables. For this call, you do not need to, the fields of outputs is not to be completed by you, because the output indicators are not relevant for this call, the ones that we have there. Outputs would have need to link always to the output indicators, so you can disregard this section. You just have to complete the deliverables in each work package.
And also the activities. Huh? So I don't know if
yeah.
If the question also relates to the differentiation between activity and deliverables. I don't know if you can react on that, so that we can give the correct answer to your question.
But just to say, I mean, the activities is the deliverables are always a subsection of the activities. So activity is what you do, and the deliverable is the final output of those activities. So you can have several deliverables also for one activity. But the deliverable is really the product that comes out of it. Okay. I see for the moment no other questions in the chat. Just to remind you, also, if you don't want to type, you can also raise your hand and ask your question like this directly. But while I'm talking, I see we have another question in the chat.
Yeah. So does the support rate of 90% also apply for companies? Yes, but of course, we have to take into account the state aid rules. There are specific provisions around state aid for COVID. We will come back on it later, because we think that is maybe more specific for some people. Not everybody is concerned by this. So we will look at that. And yeah, state aid is not only for companies, so it's also to clarify that it's really we have to assess what are the types of activities taking place. Are they state aid relevant? Yes, no, and that is disregarded the status. And then there will be some specific calculations depending on the type of organization.
Mm-hmm. I see a question on partnership that I'm not sure I fully understand. So please don't hesitate if the answer is now not what you're asking for to just specify what you mean. The question is it possible to have different partners according to the target audience? Not all partners are in charge of both of them. I tried just to answer more generally. The principal idea is always cross-border cooperation, so that should be visible with all activities. Now, as and the whole application form as such, the whole project. Of course, you have in the partnership different roles that you have to attribute, so that somebody will be more active for a certain activity than another partner. Not all partners, if we're talking more than 2 partners, have to be involved in every single activity. As long as the cross-border core of the project is not affected by this. So if you're not just working in one region for one region, then this is not what we want. But if you have a preparatory activity that is mainly led by one partner, that is okay. Yeah, if the core is still benefiting the cross-border area.
And maybe still to continue on that, this is different involvement of different partners. As you have seen, we have in the example the 2 deliverables that we have created. They were put in the budget of the lead partner. This is a possibility, but if you say no, okay. The lead partner is in charge of some activities and another partner is in charge of other ones, or at least in charge to coordinate the final deliverable, then you have to put the full amount of the deliverable at the level of each partner, and how you distribute it is really up to you to decide within the partnership. And then I see the next question is also for existing consortia. If there's already involved in another project, this doesn't matter. We are not extending current running projects. If this goal is specific, and if you want to cooperate together with partners you're already working with in another project or with new partners, basically it doesn't matter. What we expect from you and from everybody who's interested is to submit an application form very specifically on these activities related to the COVID, because the conditions are very different than the ones in running projects. This is why it's really disconnected. It can be in line, it can be linked to something you're doing in an existing project. Then you can also make reference to that in your application, but it will be considered as 2 separate projects.
And if I move to the following questions, to question if several applicants submit a comparable file, do you foresee collaboration? Now I'm not quite sure how to contextualize that question, just to say, I mean, every application form is assessed independently and gets, let's say, independently funding. We always, if approved projects or if projects are approved, we always encourage collaboration. But let's say we cannot, since every application form is approved individually, cannot say, okay, here are similar ones, reapply as a joint application or something. But I'm not sure. I don't think this is what you mean. But yes, collaboration is always encouraged, but it doesn't really, for the application process in let's say for this call, this doesn't really, I mean, it doesn't have an influence. But if I misunderstood your question, just shout.
But yeah, maybe also to continue on that, if we have similar activities and 2 different applications, let's say covering similar activities, the chance will be very big that we select one and reject the other one. It would be a bit strange to support twice the same type of activities. So this is why it's maybe also important that you were in touch with your regional antenna, the antenna of your region, they have also a good overview of applications that are developed, and then can bring you in contact eventually with other parties, just to say, okay, this is now overlapping very much, so it can be wiser to do it jointly.
Yeah, I think it's also a good keyword, because we didn't talk about this really in the presentation. I don't know how many of you in the participating in this meeting are you know, very familiar with our program, and or if any of you are maybe completely new. We have this network of regional antennas. You find the contacts on our website. So please, if you haven't been in contact with them so far, please do. They help you in the application process. I know it's this time we have very little time, but still always encourage there to help you. So yeah, this is just what, because we didn't say this earlier in the meeting, and the contact details are on our website.
And then I see that state aid related questions are popping up. So I think will be really time to go deeper into that. So the question is the 19% funding the general rule, whatever the status of the partner? The point is yes, as long as we can provide or pay out this 90% funding, it is applicable for everybody. Still, state aid rules are remain applicable, and if the exceptions that are foreseen for COVID cannot be applied, then we will still fall back to the general state aid rules, and it might be possible that we have to lower the funding rate. But that's not something that we can know in advance. It's based on the activities. It needs to be an analysis of the activities in question. But it's possible that the rate needs to be lowered.
Okay, we have 4 minutes left for our planned meeting. Are there still any general questions that haven't been answered yet? No, don't see anything. Okay. Then should we still present the state aid framework with the 4 main exceptions, or should we still wait after the meeting? Jean-Philippe?
No, I think if there are no further questions, I think we can proceed with the state aid part.
Okay, I just see the could we simplify the state aid rules? Unfortunately, that's not in I think in anybody's hands. It's a constant struggle to simplify this, but that's not that's unfortunately not in our hand. Okay, there was something else I wanted to say. Yeah, I will just say, because we said the state aid is a bit after, let's say it's an annex to the meeting. I think we had a few questions that were received beforehand. I think, I hope we answered most of them about the annexes. So all annexes can be submitted afterwards. All the required ones, you also do not have to submit a VAT declaration with the application form. We will need it eventually. The one questions we didn't answer are yes, we said that prolongations are possible. There is also a closure period that applies like according to our standard cost catalog. So it's good if you haven't had a look at that. So the standard cost catalog still applies. So after the project ends, there is a 3 months closure period, but your activities always need to be ended at the project end date, and yeah, also your costs need to be done by then. So it's only really for the reporting issues and final payments that this closure period of 3 months is there. Okay, the more information, again, I just want to put you again through to our general website, and especially the download section, news items to a certain extent. I also wanted to remind that the COVID call is very challenging in terms of time. So I don't know how many of you are now already actively preparing an application. But if you're generally interested, we do also have our standard call 6 that is running. So that's still running for the final applications, have to hand it in November, the provisional ones in September. So just if you don't manage it for this one, or you don't have a specific COVID project, don't forget we have the second call still running and open. Okay, with this, I will just put on, after I say goodbye to everybody, just a state aid. So if you're interested in state aid, just stay on the line. I just wanted to thank you all for participating in the meeting. We're very happy to see actually so much interest and so many participants. We hope for good applications, for good projects. If you have any questions, the regional antennas, if it's or also the program itself, the Joint Secretariat, the managing authority, we are available and also try to help you as much as possible with the whole process. We hope that you found this meeting helpful. Yeah, with this, I just wanted to say goodbye for the general part, and just stay on the line for if you want to find out more about state aid. So we just have one more slide with this. But thank you everybody for your participation. Okay, JP, I will give you back the word for state aid.
Yes, and also have our colleague Anka Simeon from the Joint Secretariat also in the room, and she is also specialized on state aid. She will also support me in this part. So, like mentioned earlier, state aid framework remains applicable. However, given the specific circumstances of COVID, the European instances decided to amend temporarily the rules or to make some exemptions. And so they are what we have identified in this temporary framework, 3 relevant items: aid for COVID for research and development, investment aid for testing and upscaling infrastructures, and investment aid for the production of COVID-19 relevant products. And I will switch then to another presentation. I don't know if you can see it. Johanna, can you maybe confirm that you can see the presentation?
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, it's visible.
So as you can see here, the idea is to accelerate research and development and support testing, upscaling infrastructure that contributes to develop the COVID-19 relevant products, and also support the production of products needed to respond to the outbreak. And so okay, here we have the other slide. It's a lot of information, but the advantage on the slide. So, but the advantage is that basically you have all information that is also in the framework documents. So what's very important to know is that okay, in the framework of COVID, we can consider also back in time, also applicable for all activities and applications, but you can go back. European instances have said, okay, back to 1st of February 2020. At program level, we have defined, okay, it's 1st of March. But so initiatives that has already taken place and were specifically set up for COVID can still be supported, but the aid must have this incentive effect for research and development, and is necessary to accelerate or widen the scope of the project. So here we can also see that basically based on these conditions, we can go up to 95% of support. However, we as program have defined that the maximum will be 90%. So if we are fitting in these conditions with your activities, basically then this 90% will be possible. And an attention point is also that undertakings that were in difficulty on the 31st of December 2019, that we cannot grant aid to them, but for undertakings that were in difficulty only from the 1st of January 2020, aid is still possible. Also important that if for research and development activities, if you have if you're developing something like this or wants to submit an application with this type of activities, it is very important here that you as beneficiary, you commit to grant non-exclusive licenses under non-discriminatory market conditions to third parties. That's something that you need to take into consideration if you want to receive this 90% support. And yeah, here the eligible costs, it's a lot. Slides will be available also after the meeting, so you have to look if your activities can fit within this scope of eligible costs. So that's really if what you are developing or what you want to submit fits into this definition, then the 90% is possible. If it's not the case, then we fall back to the normal state aid rules. And as said earlier, unfortunately, we cannot give you a clear view on what is the end result beforehand. It's really depending on the activities themselves. We need to look at it. We need to really assess what can be the impact, and then we can come up with a conclusion. So if you have the expertise inside in your organization, we certainly recommend you to consult them beforehand, so that you have an idea of what to expect. And yeah, so if the aid is lower than this 90%, so maybe for the persons who are not so familiar with state aid, the point is that state aid also defines maximum possible public contribution that you can receive. So, and this is excluding then your resources of your own organization, whatever the status is. But if we have a certain limitation and we cannot grant ERDF money to us up to a certain ceiling, it cannot also not be replaced by funding from another public authority, regional one, for example, or national one. So it's really a ceiling, and this means that you have to cover the rest with your own means. So the other exemption is also made for upscaling and testing infrastructures for the production of for infrastructure related to this COVID. We then see here that it's to test upscale up to the first industrial deployment prior to the mass production, for medical products, treatments, active pharmaceutical ingredients. So again, have a look at it. If this fits with your activities or not. And basically here again, we can go up to 90%. Now you can see here the aid shall not exceed 75% of the eligible cost, but in case of support comes from more than one member state, then we can go increase it with an additional 15%, which end up with 90%. And this will be our case as we are in a cross-border program, and that ERDF funding can be seen as coming from different member states. Oh, sorry. Okay, here again, testing and scaling shall be open to several users and be granted on a transparent and non-discriminatory basis. So this is also an attention point. And also aid may not be granted to undertakings that were already in difficulty, but that's not different than in the first point. And then there's also then this exception for the production of COVID-19 relevant products. And here, for example, it can be equipment, here ventilators, protective clothing, disinfectant, so on. And here again we have 80%, but with an addition of 15% due to the cross-border character, which ends up with 95. And we have then this own limit or program level on 90. So I think that that are the key elements. Here still conclusive remarks. So yeah, so pay attention on the eligible costs listed here in different articles. Co-financing has to be seen as a maximum. Yeah, and de minimis can also be used. I don't know, depending on your organization, if you can make use of this exception provision. And for further information on de minimis, we have on our program website a guidance related to the use of de minimis, how to understand it, how it works. So I certainly encourage you to have a view on that. So I don't know if in the meanwhile there were some questions. Going back to the chat.
No, I cannot see any questions.
No. Okay. Good. So I think if no further questions from your side, I don't know, also a colleague, if somebody still wants to contribute in this discussion about state aid. No. Okay, good. And Johanna, I think that
we can close. Maybe the last thing, just a random question for the chat. How many of you still want to, if you want to submit a project, or you say like, no way, if you just want to put a quick reaction in there, because yeah. And again, if we have any questions, you can also contact us afterwards directly. Yeah, it doesn't have to be all in the meeting today. But also give us, if you have some feedback on this event still in the chat, we'd be happy to read it, or outside. It's also the first time we have now done such a formative meeting. So yeah, just we're also happy for feedback. Yeah, we see it's still a lot of people there, so thank you for that. We will share the slides, but we will actually share the whole presentation, or upload the presentation. If you want the slides, we will probably also just upload the slides directly on our website. We still have to find something. If you need it urgently, you can also contact us. I'm just thinking for the best way. Then we can send it directly. But we will try to upload it on the website as well. If you registered the form, in the form, like if you use the registration form, we do have your email address, so we can send to those participants a link, but that applies only for those who have registered, because I know some of you have used the link directly. So in this case, if you're not in the registration list, let us know if you need it urgently. Otherwise, website. Yeah, that's I think for now. Yeah. Okay. I think that's it. We will leave it open still for 1 or 2 minutes. If there's anything you want to say or share with us. But for the rest, we just thank you and good luck if you're working on an application. We're looking forward to it. Yes, and with this, we can close the meeting. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.